All right, so here we are in the what I hope is the last video. I've got about 10 different things that I want to get accomplished here before we get to the part where there will be one more video where we talk about compiling the code down to for the target platform, like on your PC or something like that, Xbox, mobile phone, wherever you want your game to play. So we're going to do that in another video, but this I think is going to be the last video where we actually manipulate what is in the game. So the first thing is that this is going to be our intro scene. This is the screen that's going to pop up when you first start the game. So what I want to do is I want to have the title up here. I want to have the controls laid out so that everybody knows what they're supposed to do. And I want to have some basic instructions like press enter or spacebar or something to play the game, and maybe press Q to quit. So I think that is a good set of basic information for us to have. But the first thing that I notice here is that I've positioned my characters backwards. I would really like to have player 1 on the left and player 2 on the right for sort of this left to right, normal reading flow kind of a thing. So I'm gonna adjust them right now, and I'm not gonna make you guys watch me flip them, but I'm gonna flip them right now. Okay, so I've switched them now. Really all I had to do to make this work was look at the position. I've got them both positioned on the X axis of my world here, both at -10. So all I had to do was look at one, switch their Z positions and their rotations, and that was easy enough to do. So now what we want to do is get our text on here. We also are going to need a new script to accomplish moving to the next, moving into the game scene, or quitting the application if we were going to do either of those things. But I think the first thing is we're going to need to actually have some text. So that's going to be part of the canvas. That's a user interface piece, right? So we're going to go to our UI and let's grab a text right here, and you can see that it's got our new text. We can see it over here. I'm looking at the game scene right now because if we're in the scene window rather than the game window, our text isn't there. If we double click on this, it's part of the canvas, which, remember, it stores the canvas way up here in the in outer space. Which is weird, but there it is. So we are probably going to want to be able to manipulate this with our move and rectangle tools and stuff like that here. So I'm just going to set us to 2D mode and back us out. There's the entire canvas, and there's our text. Now this is not really an ideal working situation because this is what the player's going to see, and they're going to see this text superimposed over our characters, and over here we can't see where the characters are. So we're going to be going back and forth quite a lot here between those two windows. That is a good opportunity for us to have a quick look at what the hotkeys are for this. So I've just gone to my window menu, and in general, our scene window is, I'm on a Mac, so Command 1, and game is Command 2. So if I'm down here, I can just go Command 1 or Command 2, Command 1, Command 2, without having to move my mouse back up here. So I think it's worth your time to start looking at those, because, yeah, this is a situation where we're going to be fine-tuning it, sort of using both windows. Now, here's our text. Let's move it. Grab my move tool. So again, hotkeys are good. That's QWERT and Y for that. But I'm just going to reposition this sort of down there. Let's see how we did. Where did it go? It's in his shadow. So there's a couple of things that you can see. If I want the text for player 1 to be in front of player 1, this dark text right here, number 1, is too small, and number 2, the color kind of disappears into this dark shadowy purple color here. So there's a couple things that we can do. But don't get excited because I want to show you what this is, and then we're going to go to a second better solution in a second. But if we look at our text game object here, and in the inspector we have the text script that is attached to it. So new text right here, this is the actual words that are showing over here. So let's make this say player 1. So now it says player 1 over here. Whatever I type in here is what's going to show up over there. Let's Arial is fine. Let's see. Let's make it bold so it stands out a little bit more. Let's make it quite a lot bigger. Instead of 40, let's make it like 50 font size. Notice it disappeared. As soon as I typed in the 50, it's gone now. The reason for that is because over here, if we are to see how big this box is, the entire size right now that our game is allowing for this text. And I made it 50 point font over here, so it doesn't fit inside the box anymore, so it just kind of disappears it. So if we just make the box bigger, then our text actually comes back. So there's player 1. Again, if we position it kind of in the shadows here, you still can't see it. So if we go to our color here, we can grab a, I don't know, what's a yellow or something. Yellow stands out great against the purple, but not so much against the other background. So that's the problem that we're going to have with this UI text. UI text is actually great if you have a lot of text that is supposed to be read. You know, if you've got a character popping up and they've got a text bubble and you have to read the story, the words that they're saying. But this UI text is not super great for things like a title, like we're doing here. We want really stylized text that holds its own, and we don't have to have like a background for it to sit in front of or something. So rather than using a text, I'm just going to delete this. Let's go instead for a UI Text Mesh Pro. So notice it's saying it's going to have to import this. This appears the first time you have accessed this, so that we need to get this into your project. So I'm going to import this. And we've got examples and extras. Sure, why not? I'll import all that stuff too. Now that's all going into, now I have a folder down here for my Text Mesh Pro stuff. The reason why this is a completely separate thing is that this is not just putting text on the screen. This is using images and all kinds of actual files to create the text. So there's our new text. We can see that on screen. Let's again call that player 1. And what I want to do now is, for the moment, I think that's, let's make it bigger. So font size, again, let's try 50. Let's make it bold. Now, been a minute since I've looked at this. So outline is one of the most important things that I want to do here. So right now we've got, you know what, let's position it so that we get that same kind of a thing going here. We've got part of it is in front of our floor and part of it is in the shadowy player here. The part, because it's a really light colored text, it stands out really well in front of the purple, but it disappears into the sort of white and gray over here. So what we're going to do is give it an outline. A black outline I think is probably fine. I'm just going to, we need to enable that over here. And then when I pull up the thickness, we get an outline around it, which makes this stand out even in front of the mostly white background. So I think maybe the face of this, let's go with more of a yellow color. I like that. Okay, that is plenty good enough. For the amount of text that I'm going to want to have on here, I think maybe 50 is actually a little big, so I'm going to go down to 40 here. And let's what my plan is here is I'm going to have some text for player 1 over here, some text for player 2 over here, and in the middle, I'm going to have some text that says, like, for example, in the middle, I'm going to say how to move, how to put your shield up, how to shoot your fireball, and then over here, it's just going to say what key it is. It's not going to so there'll be 3 columns of text. The column in the middle is how to do stuff, or it'll just say move, shield, fireball, or something like that. And then over here it'll say how player 1 does that, and over here it'll say how player 2 does that. So player 1, and you don't have to do exactly what I'm doing, but this is how I've decided to do it. So have fun, make yours work the way that you like. You can judge from how mine turns out if you want to just duplicate me, or if you want to explore a little bit. So player 1 is going to move with WASD, and we're going to let's see. I'm going to have to actually look here to see. And we've got our player stats. Okay, so in our shield here, this is set active. We're using the 1 key for the shield. Okay, so shield is going to be 1, and fireball is going to be 2. And that is pretty much all of that. This is obviously not positioned well. I think I'm probably going to want that to be even smaller. I got all excited and made the text really huge. Let's go back down to 30 text, and now I don't like it anymore because my outline is too small. Let's thicken that up. That looks okay. I kind of wish I had more yellow in the middle. Which is, I'm not going to spend a ton of time here messing with that, but there's definitely ways to do that, to make the yellow part thicker as well. But this is acceptable, so I'm going to go with it. In the end, you can do a ton of stuff with this Text Mesh Pro. You can, instead of having a solid color, you can load a texture like we did to the floor, and so you could have your checkers as the color of your text. Or we're going to call it Fireball. I'm going to put the title up here. You could have flames in there and everything. One thing that I do want to do here, this is my player 1 text. P1 text. Oops. There. I want to make this so that it is right aligned. And let's see, position X. I'm just going to kind of, that's probably fine. Now, because I've got, I want this to be consistent as far as the size of my text and the style and all that kind of thing. So rather than trying to duplicate my settings in a new object, I'm just going to duplicate this. Duplicate. We're going to call it player 2 text. Come on. Player 2 text. So in player 2 text, we're having player 2. We're moving with arrow keys. And obviously we don't want that text right on top of the old text. So rather than -221, this is, notice this is anchoring from the center of the screen, or from the center of the canvas rather. So in order to move this exactly to the other side, all I have to do, again, just like when we were duplicating the eyes, all I have to do is remove the negative sign from that, and it flips it to the other side. Now this is not perfectly symmetrical here because I still have it right aligned, but if I left align it, then we get this nice railroad track parallel lines thing happening there. I'm gonna grab the fireball. I just want to see that thing burn there for a second so that I can judge how that's gonna look with this text. This is acceptable. Okay, I want to do one more thing here. We're going to go center text, so I'm going to duplicate this again. On the first line, I don't want any text on the top, because, so let's see, I'm going to go move, shield, and fireball. And this time we're going to center align that text. And as far as where it's positioned, I want it positioned exactly center. So that seems fine. So WSD is the movement. You know, I'm just going to throw some like dashes on the end of each of these. Yeah, I like how that looks. That's acceptable. I'm not entirely. I don't think I actually like the yellow because I've got yellow in the fireball back here. Not sure what color I would go to. Let's try like an electric blue. Oh, that works. An interesting thing just happened here. Notice that when I changed the color, it changed the color for all of these. That must be because they're all using a common material. And so just something to know about. What we'll do now is instead of, I do want to keep this exact same text style for everything right now, and it's nice that they're linked. Let's call this text center or center text. I don't want all caps. Come on, we'll wake up. Center text. Okay. And let's do one more duplicate here. This is going to be called, we'll call it start text. So the start text is just going to say press what, spacebar to start, and then let's have it say a bunch of spaces, press Q to quit. Okay, so once again, that's not going to be big enough. So what I want to do is have that be all the way across the bottom. So I'm just going to pull the sides of this thing until it snaps to the edges. Notice it'll actually snap to the edge of your canvas there. So snap to the bottom, snap to the bottom. Oops. Oh, I moved the wrong thing. There we go. So I've got too much space in here. You can see it's trying to wrap the word quit there. So let's just... That is probably fine. Let's see how that... I would like that to be just a little bit lower so it just rides the bottom of the screen there. Yeah, that's acceptable. Up a little. I'm not going to spend too much time fine-tuning it. I just wanted to... Okay, so there we are. Now let's create a brand new text mesh. Rather than duplicating over and over and over, let's create a new Text Mesh Pro text. Notice first thing is that it's the exact same thing. Even though I created a brand new one, it's already using the exact same stuff that the old one had as far as color and all that. I'm going to center that. So here's why it's doing that, is because it's using an asset, just like when we have our character here, and it has a material, right? So player 2 has got this green color. If I was to change the color here of the attributes of the actual material, then anything that was painted with that material would change as well. So TextMesh Pro uses actual font files for that. So what we've got here, we've got this in the font settings, you've got this font asset right here. So at the moment we're using this Liberation Sans font, and in order to have this be different, we're going to have to use a different font, or we could go and copy the actual asset, so duplicate the actual asset on our computer here. So that is actually going to be somewhere here in the it's probably in resources, fonts. So there's that's probably it. This is the font. So we could just copy this or something. But what we're going to do is I'm just going to change the font. I don't want this to be the exact same thing as everything else. So I can, yeah, there it is. The little circle here, if I click on that, it's going to show me a list of all the different fonts that I have available to me right now. So I can just kind of click and preview these to see which one is going to be the more what I'm after. So I think that this Bangers one, where it's kind of highly stylized, that should be fun. So let's use that. Now that I've picked a completely different font asset, the settings that I had on the other font are not applying to this. So let's I don't know, let's give it kind of a, what happened here? Kind of a yellow color. There we go. I like that. Okay. It should be a giant. So scale tool, no, just a bigger box. And let's move that back to the center. So position 0. And I want it bigger than that. This one, I do want 50 or 60 or something, maybe 80. Let's try 80. That's pretty nice. Yeah. And let's just move it up a little. Oops. That's pretty good. We don't want it to be called new text. That's not the name of our game. We're going to call this in all caps Fireball. That's what I'm going to call it. And let's go for an outline color. A nice red actually might be cool on this. So we have to enable it. Yeah. Yeah, that's nice. So I want this even bigger. Let's try 100. And move it up just a little bit. So I'm just trying to figure out what's well, now I'm kind of jealous. I really like the red and yellow pop of that text. So maybe we'll go down here, and I can always put this back, but if I go to one of these other ones, let's set that for that same sort of slightly orangey yellow color. And the outline, let's set to red. A darker red. Maybe just a little less thickness to the... Yeah, I wasn't super excited about the blue color. So the main thing that I want you to take away from this that I'm having right now is once you start putting elements in, you're going to often rethink what you've done already and wonder if that was a good way to do that. I'm just going to look at the underlay right here. The underlay is like a shadow behind it, and I think I like this better if I just add a little shadow. I'm going to turn the brightness of this back to a brighter red, but with the underlay behind it, so we get sort of better outlining because of the underlay, and it allows us to have a brighter red there as well. See if we dilate. There. I do like that. So even though these are the exact same colors as our fireball in the background, I think once we actually, you can still read that really well. So I'm happy. Okay, that dealing with the text was the main thing that we had to do. This, I don't need to actually play. The functionality is what we need now. So there's nothing actually functions here in the in the game itself. So what we really need to do is have it. We need something to attach the script to. I could attach to anything and it doesn't matter what because nothing functions. So rather than just attach it to a random thing, I'm going to actually create a brand new empty game object and I'm going to call it scene loader or something. And I'm going to attach my my script that responds to the space or Q commands. I'm going to attach that here to this. Let's go. Maybe you haven't seen this way yet. I don't remember if I did this or not. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add the component, and I'm just going to, rather than go to scripts and tell it that I want to add a script, I'm just going to start typing the name of the script that I want. It doesn't even exist yet, but I'm going to type the name of it. And I'm going to call it something like intro scene loader. So intro scene, it already is assuming that I'm going to want a new script because there's nothing called intro scene loader that Unity comes with. So when I hit enter, it's like, oh yeah, you wanted a new script. And if I just hit enter again, creates it. It's not in my scripts folder yet, but it creates it and it's already attached. So I could come over here and double click it, but since I was kind of already up here, I'm just going to double click it there and it pops open. This is not going to need to do anything on start, so I'm just going to delete my start function. It's taking up space I don't want. Get my brackets nice and pretty. Okay, so basically in the update function here, we are just going to be looking for two key presses, the space key and the I just realized that I've got the wrong text here. Before I forget even worse, let's correct that before we continue with our. Okay, this is in the canvas. Player 2 text. Gosh, let's see. How did I have the? Okay, so arrow keys, player stats. So wow, I'm not sure I had. I did not create a way for player 2 to have the shield up. I don't think. I'm just going to copy. No, this is the wrong way to do this. I'm going to make a big, crazy. I'm going to put this entire thing here inside. I can't believe I forgot this long. So I'm gonna put this all inside of some parentheses, and I'm gonna say that happens, or no, I don't like that for or. I want this. That is going to be or input paste. So each of these is going to need to have a way to separate it. Sorry, my brain's going. And so basically inside the first set of parentheses here, that's this one and that one. I'm going to want this to say, if you press 1 and you're on layer 9, right? And GameObject.layer. GameObject.layer is equals to 9. Or if you are using, so the shoot script already kind of did this, right? So alpha 0 is what we used for player 2 to fire, so 9 will be his shield. So alpha 9. Same thing, and GameObject.layer is equals to 10. Okay. So the way that I've got these parentheses there, this parenthesis goes matches one that's all the way back here. So I've got this this parenthesis here matches this one. So that's a complete box from here to there. So if input is 1 and you're on layer 9, or if input is 9 and you're on layer 10, then so far so good. But you also have to have on whatever game object player this is, you also have to have enough mana, right? .z mana. Okay. So maybe you did this already. Good on you if you did. So, I ruined this. No, that's right. Okay, so we're pressing 1, but layer 9. I got freaked out there for a second. Okay, so press 1 for shields if you're player 1. Press 9 for shields if you're player 2. So 1 for shield, and then player 2 needs to be pressing 9. And we just confirmed that we're going to press 0 for the fireball. Okay, that's correct. At last. Okay, so now let's go back to our scene loader. We need to be checking to see if we're pressing the spacebar or if we're pressing the Q key. So if input dot get key down, key code dot space, right? And I'm just going to copy that, paste it down here, except that in this case, I need closing parenthesis on both of those. Okay, so keycode.q is going to be the other thing. So if we press space, that is going to press space to start. Start means that we're going to go to the game scene, capital G game, right? So there we're going to first we're going to need the correct library with the scene management stuff. So using Unity engine dot scene management semicolon. Now we're going to go scene manager dot load scene, and the scene that we're going to load is called, in quotes, because this is the name of it, it's just text, right? Game. Before we do anything else and try this Q thing, let's see if it functions. Test it out. So the game is running. There's our fireball, and I press spacebar, and it does in fact move us into the game scene. That is a success. So The other thing that we want to do is be looking for the queue. So the way to quit the game is to run the command application.quit. That is a method, so it gets parentheses. There's no pomp and circumstance for this. It just, when you hit Q, it quits. The game just shuts down and is gone. There's no way to actually test this in the Unity editor here because it's not going to quit Unity. So I suppose it could take us out of play mode or something, but they haven't done that. So it actually does absolutely nothing here. So in order to test this, we're going to have to wait until we have a finished game that's compiled and playable on our computer here, and then we'll be able to check it. For right now, though, best we can do is add a debug.log message that just tells us game has supposedly quit. So let's test that so we get our debug at least. Save, and one more time. We're playing, and when I hit Q, I clicked out of there when I hit the console, Q, there, game has supposedly quit. So, so far, so good. That actually functions. That's all I want to do with this intro screen. This is plenty enough. We could get fancy. We could have buttons for things, settings, yeah, hard mode, get hit once, how many, whatever. There's a lot of stuff we could do here, but we don't need any of that to get our game playable and actually, usable for somebody. So let's move to the game scene. There's a couple things that I want to do here. Yes, definitely save that. Really, the only thing that the game is ready. The only thing that's not really ready about it is that I don't want our game to start with the two players like just facing each other ready for this death match. So what I'm gonna do is let's just move the players around here. So just gonna get my move tool, grab player 1, and player 1 can just kind of go over here on one side of the building, so that they actually have to move around and find the other player a little bit. And also I don't want my mana bottles all in a cluster here, so I suppose all I really need to do is I hope that you guys will do something a little more interesting with yours. I just want mine functional so you can see what I'm doing here. So I'll put one way over here and one way over there. That's playable. So hopefully you've got more buildings and you can hide your mana bottles in interesting places or something like that. You know what? Let's actually just take the let's take one and put it inside the building. That's fine. Okay, save. That's enough of that. The windscreens are the other thing that we need to be looking at. So here we are. I want two different things to happen here. I do want some text. Let's add a text here that says player 1 wins. So let's add a UI, again, text mesh pro. Well, that's kind of fun. It's it's still using that same asset. I'm going to make it bigger, but I like the style of this already. So let's just say player 1 wins. 1 wins. You know what? All caps. Player 1 wins. And make it nice and big, centered, center aligned, and maybe let's try 70. And player 1 wins. We'll move its Y position down. That seems fine. Okay. So So now the only other thing that we need for the entire game is to actually make this guy rotate. We're going to go to the camera rotator here. Remember we had on the player, we put this camera holder on here so that we can grab the y-axis and rotate it and get this kind of big cinematic look, right? I don't want him to start in the center here. I want him off to one side a little bit so we can kind of see the building move in behind him instead of just like a big square behind him when the door's obscured. So I'm going to start him maybe about there. Minus 25, that looks fine. And we just need a script to do this. So I'm going to, once again, straight on the camera holder game object, I'm going to add the component. And I'm just going to type CameraRotator in here. There's no such thing as a camera rotator. I'm going to make that. So if I type that in there, hit enter, it assumes that I'm creating a new script called that. Enter again, and it creates my script. So there it is in my assets. And here it is, already attached to the game object. If I double click it, then it pops it open here in Visual Studio. So fix my brackets. I don't need anything in the start method, so I'm just going to delete that. So we're not going to check for key presses or anything right here. We're just going to have it automatically rotate. So we're going to go transform dot rotate, and we'll get our vector 3 in here. So remember, the rotation that we're going to have is rotating around the y-axis, right? So I'm not sure how fast I want to go, so I'm going to use a variable. I'm going to go 0 for x. We'll call it, I don't know, rotation speed. That's a perfectly good variable name. And then 0 for the z-axis. So rotation speed, of course, doesn't exist yet. We haven't declared that variable. So let's come up here and declare that real quick. So public, because I want to be able to put a number in over on Unity's side, public int rotation speed. I just copied and pasted that. And if you're worried about it, when you click here, it highlights them both to show you that it understands they're the same thing. So there is that. So let's save that and see what it does. There's our variable. I want a speed of, I don't know, 1. Let's put in 1 and see what it looks like. Too fast. Much too fast. Let's go smaller than that. Let's go like 0.5. It's not letting me type. It's not letting me type a decimal. That's because I, over here, created this as an integer number. So it's not letting me use decimals, of course, because, well, we need a float for that. So let's just change this to a float. Save that. Give it a second to catch up. There we go. So 0.5, much better. See what that looks like. Rather than taking us out of play mode, the whole point of this being where you can type into it while the game is playing, 0.1. Actually, like 0.1. As soon as I hit play again, my 0.1 is going to be gone, but I don't have to take myself out of play mode to throw a couple numbers in here and just see what the motion looks like. I don't have to keep hitting play and stuff. So I got lucky on 0.1. I actually like this speed. This has got the vibe that I was looking for. Again, you don't need to look for exactly the same kind of thing. I just wanted there to be a little bit of camera motion around him to make it look not like just a lump sitting there. So this is still showing here, even though I said that it wasn't going to. As soon as I click out of there, it's because the cursor is still in there. If I click up here, it'll revert. See, there's my 0.5. So 0.1 is what I wanted. Okay, so that's good. The other thing that we need our script to do over here is to take us back to the intro screen. We're going to give a certain amount of time, and then we're going to go back. So what we need is a counter for that. So I'm going to create, again, a public, but this time I'm definitely actually do want an integer because we're counting int counter. We'll just call it counter. So, and here I'm going to show you an interesting shorthand. What we're going to do is we're going to go counter every frame, every time the update runs, right? We're going to go counter equals counter minus 1, right? Except that whenever in computer science, subtracting or adding 1 to a number as a counter is a really, really common thing to do. So there's a shorthand way to do this. We don't actually have to write all this stuff. I haven't been telling you guys this stuff because I want you just to be able to get one functional version that you can rely on instead of going, oh gosh, there's 7 ways that I could do this or 100 ways that I could do this. It really does allow you a lot of ways to do this. But the shorthand for this is to just go counter minus minus. And that accomplishes the exact same thing. When you go minus minus or plus plus, it just adds 1 or subtracts 1 to the variable that we're talking about. So I don't really, my intention is not to give you a bunch of shorthand right now. I just wanted to kind of introduce the idea that there is more than one way to go about a lot of these things. So yes, definitely you're stepping competently into a very big world here. So more to learn. Anyway, now we need to check if our counter has hit 0 yet. So if parentheses and brackets. So if our counter is equal to equal to 0, you know what, just be safe. I don't see how it could go past without triggering this and taking us back to the scene, because what we're going to do is we're going to do the load scene, in which case we need the scene manager, right? Using Unity engine dot scene management, semicolon. So here we're going to go scene manager dot load scene, and the scene that we're going to load is, in quotes, intro, right? That's in our scenes. This one, we're going to that intro scene, capital I intro, just to be double sure that we've done the exact same thing. So just to make, I don't see how we could go past 1. But I feel like it's a nice safety to say if it's less than or equal to 0. It doesn't even matter if we make it 1 frame less. Once it hits 0, it still stays, but when it goes into negatives, it will take us to the scene manager. I'm just paranoid for some reason that somehow my code won't trigger the first time, but this will allow it to catch it the second time or the third time or the fourth time. There's no reason why any of that should ever happen. That would be a genuine error if it missed it, but I like redundancy, so there we are. Okay, so now let's save that. We should have a new variable showing up here any second. There it is. So at 60 frames per second, let's say 3 seconds to stare at this guy. So that's 180. That's 60 times 3, 180. So here we are. 2, 3. And then we're back to the opening screen. So the reason why I made that a public variable is because we have to decide, do we like this amount of time and this amount of rotation? Player 1 wins. I think, honestly, we could go just a hint longer for the effect that I was after. But then on the other hand, if we're playing this thing over and over and over and we die quickly, which is possible, right? Players might just slaughter each other and we might see the windscreen really, really often. And I don't want it to take up too much time. So I'm going to leave it right there. We can always go back and fine tune it later. Guys, everything in the entire game is done. We're ready to export, except that we haven't actually put our script onto the and this text onto the other windscreen. So let's just do that real quick. I can grab this Text Mesh Pro and I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to load. Yes, definitely save the scene. Okay, over here, you know what? This will be fun. Let's actually take. My bad, I'm on player 2 now. Oh, I don't want to rotate the player, that's why. I want to rotate the camera holder. But instead of going to -25, I'm going to go to +25. Ish. And we'll rotate him the other direction. Anyway, I'm going to, on our canvas, let's paste that thing before I forget. Text Mesh Pro, it didn't stick to the canvas. There it is. And it should now say player 2. Oh, come on. Player 2 wins. Okay. So the camera holder needs our script, the CameraRotator, the rotation speed. Instead of 0.1 like we had in the other, I'm going to go -0.1. And the counter we had set for 180. That can be the same. And I believe we are set here. And it rotates the opposite way. So that's kind of cool. Okay. Let's just run through the entire thing. I'm going to hit spacebar to start. Here we are. And I'm going to be player 2, apparently. That's what I just grabbed. I'm going to come to the other side of the building where I placed them. And I'm going to blast away. Ooh, it's hard to hit him. Got to get me close. And player 2 wins. And we get the weird lighting thing. And it takes us back to the beginning. Press space. This time I'll be player 1. Come around the back of the building. Blast. Player 1 wins. And we're back. I'm going to hit Q, and our console has supposedly quit. This looks good. We have an entire loop. The game can start, go through the whole thing, get back to the intro screen, and then we can quit the game when we're tired of it. That's a success. All right, guys. We're going to, in the next video, look at how to compile the game so it's a finished version. You don't have to run it from inside of Unity, but it's going to be something that anybody with the right computer, you know, I'm going to make a Mac version because I'm on the Mac, but you guys might make a Windows version or dump it out for your Xbox or whatever you have. We're going to learn how to do that and what the settings and considerations are there, and maybe a little troubleshooting. But good job. So before we get to that, if you guys want to build out your game or spruce anything up, change what the characters look like, any of that kind of stuff, do that now. Spend some time before we get to the next video where we're going to put the final stamp of finished on it. Good job, guys.